Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Thursday night segment of The Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM from the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM from New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee who have been a part of our journey for the last several years. So thank you, Folgers. We couldn't do it without you, nor would we want to. Big shout out and thanks to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind the logos here at the show. Check him out on Facebook and Instagram. Specializes in the Halloween and horror genre and does amazing commission pieces of any type. So tonight, New Orleans apparently is battening down the hatches. They've got weather coming in, and our guest tonight is saying there's something similar. So we're all going to hang in there, keep our fingers crossed, and hope that it works out. So anyway, I have to welcome back Bruce Brown. I always have so much fun when he's on. The stories are amazing. And honestly, I don't think I've ever encountered anybody who has had Dogman experiences like this. It just makes me want to go out and crazily get into, a Dogman encounter and just, check it out. And everyone's going, oh, yeah, go and do it. It's like I got to turn on my telepathy just so I don't get myself into trouble. But I just told Bruce I'd go with him, so I know I'm in good hands. Anyway, tonight we are actually talking about his Bigfoot encounters. And if they're anything like the Dogman encounters, I'm definitely going to hang out with Bruce because they're just incredible. So, okay, sorry, computer issues again. Sorry, yeah. So Bigfoot right now, there's just a lot of people coming forward, and everybody's got some crazy stories, crazy encounters. There's a lot of pros, a lot of cons, and I guess it's like anything, it's like that in the paranormal, it's like that in ufology. It's going to be the same, a lot of different opinions. So I know with Bruce, he's just going to tell it like it is, set us straight, and it's all going to be wonderful. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming our very special guest, Bruce Brown. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Just hanging in there like a hair in a biscuit.
Uh-oh. I just hope you don't take off, like hurricane, windstorms, and you're like, Bruce is gone. And, and definitely like Bigfoot County or something. Drop in unexpectedly. Anyway, welcome back to the show. I'm just so thrilled that you're back on and looking forward to what you have. Honestly, I have to say, after the last show, and of course after the show when you were on with Daryl Denton, myself, and Ron Moorhead, I sort of got like a good dose of all of these encounters that you spoke about, and this stuff just find you. I have to ask because the best stuff happens to you, and you come out unscathed. That's the best part of it.
I've been lucky.
Okay, we could chalk it up to luck.
Yeah.
So, when was your first encounter with Bigfoot? I mean,
at 8 years old, I went to my grandmother's house.
Yeah.
And I had got a kite, the kind you had to actually put together.
Right.
Well, I put it together, put my kite string on it, and went out in the back field behind her house there. She had a hay field back there.
Yeah.
We had a good wind, but I made several attempts to try to get my kite up, and I just couldn't get it up. And I noticed 3 gorillas, 2 large ones and a small one, walked out in the hay field with me. Now, they weren't that far away from me, 25 to 30 yards. But me and my father had watched Wild Kingdom every Sunday.
Right.
And they tell you if you don't look them in the eyes or make any quick advances towards them or something, they won't bother you. So I kept trying to get my kite up. I'm 8 years old. I'm not real thrilled. With the gorillas, I'm more interested in my kite.
Wow.
So
yeah.
After not being able to get it up, I went back into the house and told my grandmother, so I can't get my kite in there. And I told her, I said, there's 3 gorillas out there in the field watching me. And they had just gone back in. And she had looked out the window and said, oh, I don't see anything out there. And I said, well, there are 3 gorillas out there. So she looked at my kite and said, you need a tail on it. So she got an old sheet and cut me up 3 lengths of tail, tied them together, and then tied it to my kite. She said, go out there and try that, see if that makes a difference. So I went back out there, and about 3 or 4 attempts, I got it in the air. And as I was letting out the string, these gorillas walked back out in the field. And they were more to the right of the kite as it was going up, to the right of me, out in front of me. Well, I'm letting this string out and getting it going, and I'm looking over it, and they're there. Well, they're looking at the kite. They're not paying any attention to me. So I get the kite to the end of the string. I start bringing it in, and they're watching it. When I get the kite in, just a few yards, it crashes. So I go get it. And by this time, I'm probably just 15 yards from them. And then they just turn around and walk back into the edge of the woods. There's a creek right inside the woods there. They walked back into the edge of the woods out of sight, and I just picked the kite up, went back in the house. Oh, my grandmother, they come back out and watched me. And the gorillas said, honey, we don't have gorillas in Tennessee. You're not seeing gorillas. They're just not no gorillas. And I said, well, I watched Wild Kingdom with Daddy. She said, I know. You told me, but we don't have gorillas like that here. You probably have to go to a zoo somewhere to see a gorilla here. Well, I didn't think a whole lot more about it. So
that's wild, though.
Right.
Yeah. Well, how big do you have to be?
Right.
3 of them. So, I mean, that's a good experience. It's not like, some people who, like, I just think of, poor Daryl up there in a tree for hours on end, watching one pacing around. That'd be terrifying as a kid, So obviously you didn't think much, or give it a second thought. So where did it go from there? Like, because I mean, you were how old when you had this sighting?
8 years old.
Wow. Okay. So when was your next sighting?
I've had sightings in between that, but it was in between 8 and 12, but they were sort of quick. Some of them were seconds, some of them were 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah.
The next longer sighting I had when I was 12. We were fishing the back waters of the Cumberland River, and a creek run into the lake right there. And 3 more, same situation, 2 big ones and a little one, had walked out onto these mud flats, just right across the creek from me, and was emptied into the Cumberland River backwater. So we was catching bluegill. I was sitting there catching bluegill one after another. And they turned around and walked back into the cattails and then back into the woods. So after a few minutes or so, maybe an hour, my fishing slowed up on that side. So I just walked up and went around and crossed over the creek and come back around down to the opposite side where I was catching the bluegill, and I started catching them again. And I happened to notice that these 3 walked back out. Now I was 12 years old, so the smallest one was about my size. The other 2 were pretty massive. And so I knew then that I was dealing with something other than apes. My grandmother had took me to my great-grandmother's house right after the kite incident that following weekend. And she had set me down and talked to me about what I was seeing wasn't gorillas, they were hairy men. And she was a full-blooded Cherokee. So she told me her grandfather's story, that the men went out on hunting trip, and he'd killed some deer and elk and brought it back into camp, but they always left two of the tribe's member, the clan's member, guarding the meat, even at night. And then sometime during the night, something come in and killed the two clan members of her grandfather's tribe and stole the meat. So that morning they put together a hunting party and tracked these things back into the mountains and got into a war with them. Well, they lost two more members of their clan, and they killed two or three of the Bigfoot, and which they called hairy men, and they got part of their meat back. So by the time I was 12, I realized these things weren't gorillas; they were what they called the hairy man. To a kid, that's the booger man. So as I went to cross the creek and went back to the other side, and they come back out while I was at the lake fishing in the backwaters of the Cumberland River, I wasn't scared of them. I just was keeping an eye on them. And when they come back out, the two ones turned around and went back in to the cattails that stood in the cattails, but they were so much taller than the cattails that they weren't hiding from me. The little one come out within the yards of me and was watching me, and every time I catch a bluegill and take it off the hook, I'd pitch it down on the ground beside of me, and I'd put me another worm on and pitch it back out there and catch me. And I was doing, I noticed every time I'd do that, he would look down, watch these bluegill flopping on the ground. So my grandmother always said, when you're catching something from the land like that or hunting something, to always leave something. So I thought, she said something about one of the warriors that was fishing in the creek, come across them, and had caught a bunch of trout and had made a forked limb and hung some trout on it and hung it up in the tree, and then took what they needed to eat back to the camp and left that few fish hanging on that limb in the woods, and that was in a peace offering. Well, anyway, on this little guy that walked out while I was fishing, I figured I'd make buddies with him real quick. So I reached down and I picked up a bluegill off the ground, and what a 12-year-old could throw underhanded towards him, I threw it towards him. Well, he just walks out, right out to it, and he bends down. He doesn't kneel, he squats like an Asian person and picks it up, and then just turns around and slowly walks back into the cattails and then back in the woods, and I hadn't seen him since.
Wow. That's interesting. And the parents, you feel, would have been nearby. They obviously didn't feel too threatened about you being there with their young'un.
No, my great grandmother explained to me that I was marked by them. It's the only reason why they were showing themselves to me. And at 8 years old, I didn't understand what she meant by marked.
Yeah.
So after the incident when I was 12 years old, we went back up a couple of weeks to check on her and my great grandfather. They didn't own a vehicle. They had horses and mules. They'd ride them into the community to go to the store. And she cooked on a wood stove. We went back up to check on them, make sure they didn't eat anything. And I asked her, I said, I've seen some more. And she said, yeah, you're marked. And of course, she was a religious woman and had the prettiest black hair you ever seen to be an elderly woman. It would drag the ground. That's how she kept it trimmed, by letting it drag the ground.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And she said, now what I mean by marked is you're going to question me on this, that I'm marked, because I'm looking on my body. Like something's on me. And she catches it right off the bat. She's smart. She catches it. Well, you're spiritually marked.
Yeah.
Okay, spiritually, and she explained it to me. So she said, wherever you go, they're going to know you because the way you present yourself and walk, they're not going to be threatened by you. They're going to interact with you or they're going to come out and watch you. And that's the way it's been ever since in my whole life, except for one instance. We had a bus driver and a bus load of kids every morning in Putnam County, Tennessee, in the Buffalo Valley community that was seen and reporting a bear and a cub crossing the road between 6:20 and 6:30 every morning at this certain spot. Well, the superintendent of the school, Mr. Walter Shanks, he knew me very well. I hunted and trapped on his property. We traded out on getting our tobacco in, stuff like that. And he gets a hold of me and he says, Bruce, I need you to go talk to the bus driver. And he's got something we need to figure out what's going on. We get calls from the principal and the teachers. The kids are seeing a bear and a cub walk across the road. Now, this is unusual because there's been no bears seen in this area since the late 1900s.
Wow. Wow.
So this is very unusual, and this was in the 70s.
Right.
So I go and I talk to the bus driver, and he says, yeah, we see a bear, a mom, a cub. The mom and the cub crossed the road, and he told me where they were seeing it at. And I said, well, Walter had called me to look into it. And he said, yeah. He said it made it to the school board because of the kids telling the teachers, and a school board questioned me on it. And I said, yeah, I thought it to be a bear and a young cub. So I know the man that owns the property. He owns both sides of the road there. And he owns a property next to my property. He's a park ranger. So I get a hold of him and talk to him. And he says, when you going to go? I said, well, I'm going to go tonight and use a jackrabbit squeal call. I got a Johnny Walker game caller and see if we can call this bear in. So he says, I want to go. And I said, well, I'm going tonight. He said, let's do it. So he told his brother, that was earlier that day, he told his brother that evening about it, his brother-in-law. His brother-in-law worked for Ford Motor Company out of Nashville, Tennessee. And he drove a brand new Ford truck, four-wheel drive. And so the park ranger calls me and says, hey, brother-in-law's going to loan us his new four-wheel drive truck. And we'll go through the barnyard and to the field behind the barn. And we'll use it. And I said, well, that's fine with me. Well, we get over at his brother-in-law's house, and his nephew, which is brother-in-law's son, his sister's son, he wants to go. Well, he's 18, 19 years old, so we don't have a problem with that. We'll let him drive. He can drive Daddy's new truck. We scratch it or anything, we ain't responsible.
Yeah, throw the kid under the bus.
Right. So we get our 5 guns together. We go up there. We got a quilt. We lay it on the cab of the truck, lay our guns up on the cab, and we're me and the park ranger, Mr. Shanks, we're standing in the back of the truck. So I've got a spotlight, but it plugs into a cigarette lighter. So I told the young man, I said, you stay under the steering wheel and keep our spotlight plugged in. Whatever you do, don't let it come unplugged because we need our light. So that was his job to do. On the outside of these trucks back then, they had these giant mirrors, big old chrome mirrors. And we told him to back up and back into the upper side of the barn with a truck facing towards the road because we're in the back. We need to see across that field. So we get in there, we get set up, and we turn a jackrabbit squeal call on. And I've got a big PA system that's probably it's probably 2 foot across. It's a giant speaker. that plugs into my cane collar.
Hmm.
And I've set it in the on the cab of the truck, and I cut it on, and it's blasting up those hollers. I mean, for a long ways. We'll run it about 10 minutes and cut it off. Flip the spotlight on, and we got a fox, a coyote, a bobcat. We got a possum or two, and a raccoon, and no bear. We couldn't legally shoot a bear, but we had a shotgun there. We could burn him. We could run him off. So I'm getting ready to shoot. Park ranger's holding the spotlight. I'm getting ready to shoot this bobcat, and about that time we hear one of the most loudest screams we'd ever heard. And both of us was avid hunters. We'd never heard that in the woods. And it's up on the mountain coming off a point. Well, it's coming down this point screaming, but there's trees breaking. It sounds like a runaway bulldozer coming off the mountain. And I mean, it's just terrible. So I told him, I whispered over to him, I said, I'm going to hold up shooting. Let's see what this is. And I'd lived in Alaska, so I knew it wasn't a bear. I just didn't know what it was. So when it got to the bottom of the hill, it popped a big tree about the size of your leg. And it had pulled it out of the ground, and it had crashed over in the field. Well, it stepped out screaming, and it was a giant hairy man, massive, and he was mad. So he took off running at us. So I've got a 243 rifle on the cab. I turn around and I grab that rifle. I believe he had a 30-06. He grabs his. We both get it in the scope, but it's running so fast at us. By the time we get a bead on it, it's about 25 yards or less. It might have even been 25 feet. It happened so quick. We knew we didn't have time to get out of the back of the truck and into the cab. This thing was coming after us. It was going to kill us. We went to shoot it, but it stopped and let out a guttural scream and then went high-pitched. When it did, we felt like somebody had tased us. Electricity had just locked us up. And we couldn't pull the trigger. Well, unbeknown to us, and lucky for us, the boy that was sitting behind the wheel could see it through these big mirrors. He started the truck up and took off. We went through the barnyard, out the gate. The gate was left open, went out the gate and made a left on the road. And this thing, when he took off, we were what I call zapped. It threw us against the bed of the truck and unzapped us. We come to our senses. As I was going over the tailgate, Mr. Shanks, park ranger, grabbed me and pulled me back. And by then our guns were in the bed of the truck. So we get through the barnyard, make a left onto this gravel road, and this thing comes running in the truck. He's staying with us. I mean, he's just right behind us. We know we're dead. We're not getting out of this. So we're trying to keep an eye on it and feel for our guns. And both of us are just stunned. We don't know what to say or how to react. So we're going down the road about 35. It's gaining on us. And so we come around the curve in the straight stretch on this gravel road, and the young man driving the truck gets up to 40, 45, and the truck's fishtailing. And we're hoping he doesn't wreck, because if he wrecks, we're goners. So when he went around there and he got up to about 40 or 45, this thing started losing speed, but he was still screaming at us. Well, at his closest point behind the truck was we was coming around the curve. Looked like he had braids in his hair. We later decided the rational reasoning would be just to say it was just tangled, matted hair. And over many experiences later, I figured out it was braids.
Right.
But so we get to we get back to the boys' home, and his father's the one loaned us the new truck. We pull in the driveway. The son jumps out and leaves the truck running. Now, we jump off. I jump off on one side. I went off the passenger side. Mr. Shanks jumped off the driver's side and got in the truck and put it in park. I mean, he just left the truck in gear running. So he wasn't moving that fast. He was just barely crawling when he bailed out. So he was asking us to get on the truck. He was asking us what happened. We were trying to tell him what happened. The mother comes out of the house just screaming. I mean, she was in a full-blown fit. Something's wrong with her son. So we take off and we run in the house to check on him. And he's in shock. He cannot talk. His lips are quivering. He's shaking all over. And his eyes are just locked. I mean, they're not moving to the left or the right or anything. He's just tears rolling down his face. So I told the mother, I said, just calm down a minute. He's in shock. He's in shock. So we sat there and we talked to him. And after a few minutes, he started to come down. We could tell he wasn't fully back to himself, but he was coming around. So the mother made us all hot chocolate, and we sat there and drank that hot chocolate and kept talking to him and talking to him. And then when he started to speak, his first words were, "It's coming here. It's going to kill us all. It's coming here. It's going to kill us all." And he's setting himself back into a panic again. And then we had to reach over and grab him and said, "It's all right. He's got to get through us to get to you." And we finally got him calmed down within reason, but not back to his full mind. It messed him up.
Oh, wow.
So I told the park ranger, I said, we've got to go find her guns. And I said, I'm pretty sure they're in the bed of the truck. I heard the quilt and everything. I heard it hit the guns hit in the bed of the truck. So we walked out there and looked, and we had 3 guns in the bed of the truck. We're missing 2. I said, we got to go back up there. He said, I am not going back up there. I said, it's your property. We got to go. We got to get them guns. And so he wanted to wait till daylight, so we waited till 7:30, 8 o'clock that morning. And we went back up there, heavily armed. We're carrying cannons, more or less, at this time.
I guess so. Wow.
We get up there and we find one of our guns in the edge of the road. Now, the stocks busted all the pieces on it. And we found the other gun in the barnyard where he took off. It wasn't hurt, just scratched up. But
that's a bit unnerving. So how long, like, did this thing ever track you guys to the house? Like, is that something that became an ongoing concern, especially for the young man?
yes, that took him about 6 months to get over it, to where he would actually come out of the house and go on the farm there. They had a tobacco patch and stuff. Matter of fact, I went and helped them cut their tobacco down and let it cure for 3 days, and then put it in the barn because he couldn't get his son to help him. He wouldn't come out. If he come out, he would just come out in the yard and stuff. So it took him a few months to get over it. And he was working at that time. He wouldn't even go into his job. So for years there's 2 ways out of there. For years he wouldn't go the way that the Bigfoot was at. He went the other way and come out and hit the interstate and then drove into work when he went back.
Wow. Yeah. How do you ever recover from something like that? Unless you're Bruce Brown.
Well, I mean, it unnerved me. Yeah. It unnerved me. It kept me on guard when I started dealing with many encounters. after that. Instead of being so quaint and positive, I become guarded.
Would you say, before we keep going, would you say out of all the encounters that you've had, which have been, I don't know, me popping my head up in a cave and looking at a Dogman might startle me a little bit. Do you think that, of course, you know, the one on the roof or something too. The car, I'm just having a flashback of our last conversation. Do you feel that this experience surpasses anything that you've had to that point or to this point?
Of aggression, yes, because
Wow. Okay.
me and the park ranger talked about it even months afterwards, and we didn't think we was going to get out of it alive. I mean, we were for sure thought we were going to get killed that night, even though with the amount of firepower we had. After we took off, you know, the guns were in the bed of the truck, and with no light to see in the bed of the truck, we didn't know what we were grabbing, a 22 or a shotgun or a high-powered rifle, you know. So we both were set down at the bed of the tailgate in the bed of the truck, looking over it as it was running us down the road. And for some reason, neither one of us thought to pick up a gun. We were just addled. And we went up there to possibly call in a bear and run it off, but it ended up getting into a monster. It just wasn't, you know.
Yeah. Do you feel that it was just protecting its territory, or do you think that it was just naturally aggressive? Like some of them just have that streak in them.
Right. I actually believe that dying rabbit squeal and the massive speaker I was using set it into a rage.
Wow.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah. That could do it.
And when it come off that mountain, instead of us leaving, getting in the truck and leaving, we had, you know, liquid courage, meaning guns. So we were going to wait it out and see what it is.
Yeah.
And then it sounded like a 2,000 or 3,000 pound bull bellowing, but then it went to a high pitch, and then that's when it stunned us.
Wow.
And it just vibrated your whole body. You could feel the pressure on your chest, but it didn't go through you. It was the high pitch that stunned us.
I have a couple of questions. Obsessed with horror. Were there any footprints seen and documented?
Yes.
Okay.
When we went back up there the next day to get the guns, in the barnyard, we found footprints that were, at that time, I wore a 9.5 inch heavy boot, a winter boot. I laid my boot sideways in its track, and my boot like about a half inch or so, being as wide as the track. I put my boot toe to toe, lengthways in the track, meaning my heel at the heel of this track, and then putting my other boot to the toe of my first boot, and it's still like another 1.5 inches being long enough. So you're talking about a 21-inch track. It's one of the bigger tracks I've ever found.
Wow.
The impressions were deep. You got to keep in mind it was 17 degrees that night. And so the ground was somewhat frozen, but in the barnyard, the top of the ground was frozen. That's where the cattle were fed. And the ranger had moved the cattle a couple weeks prior to that down to a farm next to mine, just where they'd be easy to get to feed in case of snow and stuff. He had a hay barn there full of hay. And but yeah, we got some massive tracks. We tracked it down almost to the curve where it was so heavy it sunk below that freeze line in the dirt into that mud, and you could see the tracks as it was running us down the road. The mud tracks were still in the road, because this was a dirt road, and A dirt
Yeah.
road is hard, and after it's drove on a few times, it gets slick where the wheels are, and then the gravel sort of pile up in the center.
Hmm.
He even left indentions in that hard packed gravel.
Hmm. Yeah. That's incredible. That's one very big being. Just a big
Yeah.
guy. A question. Wayne says, if your grandmother said you were marked, do you think that helped you, or was it problematic in this situation? Do you think having guns may have also been the catalyst that set them off? If they're telepathic or if they pick up on that energy, I was thinking that as well with the weapons. But if you're
Oh yeah.
marked, are you marked by one group and maybe the other group picks up on
Uh,
it?
she said that when you're marked, that wherever you go and you come across them, they'll know you.
Right. Yeah.
Now, with this rabbit call squeal going on, and
Mhm.
with us the guns there,
Yeah.
uh, we could have, because I already
Yeah.
was ready to shoot a coyote. I had my gun sights up, fixing to shoot a coyote when
Mhm.
this thing let out a scream and started coming off the mountain. Sounded like a bulldozer crashing through the mountain, but no engine running. It's just
Yeah.
screams and
Yeah, it's horrifying. Just horrifying. Astra says maybe you guys are too close to his young ones. Was it protecting family?
uh,
Yeah.
that. That's another possibility because when I went back and talked to the bus driver after this happened,
Yeah.
I wasn't too happy with him because this man was older than me. He would know the difference between a bear and a booger, a
Yeah.
hairy man.
Yeah.
And he owned up to it after he seen I wasn't too happy about it. But it ain't something we could go to the school and say what it was because you'd get laughed plumb out. Nobody would believe you.
Mhm.
So
Mhm. Yeah.
uh,
So how do you deal with that?
you're right.
Right.
That's a
Yeah.
whole nother situation than you had a park ranger, a
Mhm.
federal park ranger with me on his land. What's the repercussions for him if we
Mhm.
showed up? Now I did tell the superintendent, Mr. Shanks and his wife. I went to his house and told them what we'd
Mhm.
run into, but they
Yeah.
agreed along with us to keep it quiet.
Mhm.
But it never crossed the road there again.
Right. You've been to the area like since? I mean, I don't mean like even recently, but how long did it take you to go back to that area?
Well, I went back the very next day to get the guns and look
Yeah.
around. Then I went back that spring
Yeah.
and looked around and climbed on the mountain and stuff, and I actually found the trees is about 7.5 feet tall that were snapped off, and they were as big around as my legs. So you're talking 12 inches thick.
Mhm.
Uh, some of them were uprooted, and the top was stuck in the ground with the limbs and everything on it, and the root ball was sticking in the air.
Yeah.
So I
Wow.
went back uh, 9 years ago, and the place had been developed, and there's a subdivision in there now.
Boy. So
Right,
you're squeezing them out a little bit too then.
right, right.
That's wow.
Now
Wow.
across the street, I call the street, across the dirt road from this barn
Larry.
and stuff. That
Yeah.
Larry
It
Luco.
sure is. He's saying, "Hey, brother Bruce."
Hey, brother Larry, how you doing?
Yeah.
That's that across the street from this barn and stuff
Mhm.
was the park ranger's rental home. An older couple lived there. It was a 2-story old style plantation house. Now they moved out 2 or 3 days after that encounter, and then uh, he didn't know where they went to. I was able to find out that they'd moved into the Boma community of Butler County, and I went and talked to them, and they had been seeing it for several months. it would come down their driveway and actually had killed 2 of their dogs. And so after that happened with us that night, they were in earshot of the screams and stuff when we were up there. So that they moved out. They left just a couple days.
Wow. Really? Yeah, I guess what do you do?
Right.
That's just horrifying. That is horrifying. So I guess that sort of paved the way for how you were going to handle future encounters.
Yes.
Yeah.
That caused me to start talking out loud in the woods. When I come into contact with them, I will talk out loud, make my intentions known.
Yeah.
If I find a clan, then I'll repeatedly go back until they step out and let me see them, which after a while they'll get used to you. If you're marked spiritually, they know you're not going to hurt them, but they're still somewhat shy. They got to get used to you. Once they get used to you, they'll walk out and have friendly encounters with you. And the ones down on the river are normally led by a female, and she has authority over the group.
Right.
And that's the encounters I enjoy, because the females will get close, even with the males screaming and carrying on. She does like tree frog chatter and stuff, and she will argue with them, and they'll stay back.
Yeah, just shows authority, which is interesting.
Right.
That the females would, because some of these males they're huge. Like,
yes.
I mean, they can hold their own, and they bow down to the little woman. It's just like,
Well, she wasn't real small herself. I figured she was the one that I made real good friends with was probably 7.5 foot tall. Now in the woods, when you're against a 7.5 foot tall Sasquatch, I mean, that's still big. And you're talking a female generally weighs a little bit less than a male. A full-grown female will weigh about 800 to 900 pounds. A male will weigh from 12 to 1,400.
That's insane. That is insane. Yeah. So moving forward, were your encounters more benign at that point? Or,
yeah. More curiosity. They become curious. More friendlier. I knew how to handle myself better after that. If I go into the area and I find the footprints and I find the things that I'm looking for, I start talking out loud. I get them familiar with my voice. I mean, no bad intentions. Sometimes I can do that for 3 days in a row and they'll step out. Sometimes it may take me 2 weeks and they'll step out and let me see them.
Yeah.
And then the juveniles generally will give away the clan anyway because they're little pranksters.
Yeah.
They'll get in the top of trees and throw nuts at you, or tree branches, or small rocks. And that's generally the juveniles. And tree knocks, I don't like doing tree knocks because tree knocks is a locator. If they're on a hunting, out hunting, and they've got one station, say, on one ridge, another one stationed on another ridge, and one stationed on one side of that ridge down low next to the creek or river, and then the same way on the other side. When you do a tree knock, it's locator that you're in the wrong spot. Well, that tends to make the alphas in the group mad because They told you to be at a certain spot, meaning the other Sasquatch. Well, what's he doing up here on the ridge making a wood knot? Well, it doesn't take them long to figure out it's not one of them. So
yeah, that changes the dynamics a little bit.
Right. And so if they're hungry and they're hunting and you messed up their hunting, they know exactly where you at to give you payback. Whether that's to scare you or you become a 411 statistic or whatever.
So, yes. Yeah, that's frightening as well.
Right. And then I've had them to where I've made contact with the mountain ones to where they're not as friendly, but they are trustworthy. They'll get on the trail behind you without you knowing they're back there. They'll shadow you. After a few days or a few weeks in the same area with them, and they haven't migrated out to a better area as far as food wise, they will cut just a few yards off the trail onto the trail in front of you and let you see them and watching you the whole time as they're walking away. And they're not something that you can run and keep up with because their stride is so big that at just a fast walk you could keep up with them.
Yeah, that would make sense. So, what I would say the do's and don'ts. I once had someone on the show. I mean, early days. Probably about 6 years ago, and they said, what they consider a sign of war is when people kind of get out there and they get scared and it's kind of like you would do to a bear and you start smacking around pots and pans and things like that. There's just like sign of war, don't do it. Because I remember we had a caretaker on one of our properties where we knew Bigfoot was active because he would hear different tree knocks like in the dark, like wee hours of the morning, 4, 5 in the morning. He goes, I know nobody's out there chopping wood in the dark. And he was also like, this native guy, and he's sitting there going, no, he goes, I know. And he was out there. He goes, I'm out there making tobacco offerings. I'm doing everything because he said, like, I was really concerned, right, that it was 100 acres, but it backed on to government land, which was like thousands of acres. So he goes like, I don't know how many there are out there. So I'm doing this interview, and I remember texting him, okay, whatever you do, don't go out and create, don't go raise shit and start moving, making all kinds of racket. Just, keep to yourself. Anyway, he left shortly after that. He's just like, because I'm one thing to take care of a property, but I am not going to sit here and go down because I don't have enough tobacco for this kind of crap. He says, I just can't do it. It's like, okay. Right. So it was a standing joke between us, the two of us for a while. But I was just like, I couldn't imagine because you're like one guy out on like acres and acres and acres. And you hear that at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Right. Well, let me ask you this. There's something about you that I'm reading, and I'm not a medium or whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever fed the Bigfoot or been close enough to feed them?
No, but what I will tell you is that I worked with an elderly gentleman who had very good connections, strong connections, with them, and he would work, like remote viewing and different techniques like this. People used to always say he's not from here, and he used to get Bigfoot up in his area, and I'd say, God, they just fascinate me. And he goes, you need some kind of like a collective permission, to be able to, because they're very spiritual.
Right.
And he said, I will get you permission. I'm like, okay, that sounds really good. And it took weeks before he got back to me. And he said, I want you to know that no matter where you go, no matter who you encounter, there is something in place for you to be able to communicate with them if you ever want to, and you will be accepted. I've never encountered one yet, not to my knowledge. I
Well,
mean,
I guess that's what I was picking up off of you.
interesting. Yeah, it's not something I talk about. So
Well,
this is very interesting.
yeah, yeah.
Like
You
I
can
yeah,
if you meet enough people that actually have seen a Bigfoot, there's like a glow about them.
right.
They have just like a aura around them,
Mm.
and
I grew up in Northern Canada. I spent a lot of time, even as a young person, like, I didn't have to worry about things back then, and I never feared the woods. I would go up. I could see go to the very top, biggest mountain, and I'd be able to look down, and I could see the valley, the lake. I could see, like, my house, and I never worried about it. I would like, I think I've said this story the last time you were on, where I was just on one mountaintop having an apple, and there was a timber wolf on the other one, just staring at me, and I just put my
okay.
head down and lopped over an apple, and he took it. So I don't know that there
So
weren't.
you have a spiritual connection and just didn't know it.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. Oh, big with animals. So did my father. Both of my
yeah,
parents had indigenous backgrounds too. So I'm not surprised. I was taught how to be very respectful. And with my
right.
father, it was weird because birds like eagles and wildlife in general would gravitate to him. I'd see
Yeah,
him moving around, and then, and they would just kind of pop by him tree to tree and just stare at him like.
right,
But yeah, I've always seemed to have it without knowing that I
right.
actually had that. I mean, I've been
Right.
able to pat Arctic wolves without any issues, like, at all. So I don't know if there was interest with Bigfoot. I think it would have been from afar.
Right.
But I don't think it would have been like. I mean, I know if I saw something that big, and not at all. But yeah, even bears I didn't have problems with. Like, I could smell them when they were around, and nothing like that. I think they just know what your intentions are.
Right. And then plus, if you're feeding a wolf, there is a spiritual connection because they don't let you feed them.
Oh,
Uh,
oh, that was very
yes,
interesting. We
yes, you
sat
have
there
to
for
have
an hour staring at each other.
yeah.
Yeah.
They're a they're a pack type, uh, rip apart type
Mhm,
wolves. Uh, they get you in a certain spot, the right spot, and they don't mind eating you.
mhm.
For them to hang around you like that and not have a bad encounter, then you
Mm.
have
Yeah.
you've been marked.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was probably, at the time I had the encounter with that wolf, I was probably between 8 and 9. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't worry. I'd always go trudging through the woods and never. And I think it's maybe sensed that the innocence as well. And it since had an encounter with biggest wolf I ever saw, and that were not native to this area. This is probably going back now a few years ago now. Wintertime, it was chasing a rabbit, and the rabbit went in under one of my fences and under one of my outbuildings. And the biggest thing I've ever seen. I've had Malamutes, Huskies. I've had friends who have had just really big dogs that look like they could have been wolves. I've had them where they've had dog wolf hybrids.
Right.
This
Mixed.
thing
Yeah.
that came in was massive, and I'm standing staring out the window. It was a huge window, and I'm just sort of washing my hands, and I look, and I'm thinking, don't move because it will see you move. And I just wanted
Right.
to watch it. And it spun around like it would have hit the building if it would have tried to grab the rabbit. This thing like put the brakes on, and it haunched up a bit, and it kind of turned around, and I just sat there staring at it, and I reached over because I was trying to go to get the phone, take a picture. It spun around, looked at the house, and it went down because I was surrounded, ravine everywhere.
Right.
And I was just like, "Oh my God." And then, Wayne came over, and when he put his hand in the print next to the snow, the print was, the paw print was as big as his hand.
Yes.
I've never seen one that big. Even timber wolves are tall and lanky. They don't have big paws like that.
Right.
So I don't know,
Yeah.
Bruce, what the heck was that?
Well, if it's a black wolf, it was a spiritual wolf.
No, it was white, and it
White.
had a little bit of brown on it.
Well, that also could have been what they call the, I can't think of the name of it, but it is also spiritual. But it's,
Yeah. It was
it was like in between realms type. It could have been a reincarnation of something else.
Oh, it was very humbling. I love wolves. I grew up
Yeah.
around them. I love them. And, I said the only thing I could compare to size would be like a dire wolf, and we know they're not really around. So it was just, it's not native to the area. We just didn't have them. Yeah, coy wolves, things like that, but they're just mangy looking things, and
Yeah.
there was nothing like this. This thing was big. It was full. I mean, it was just big in the chest. It was big everywhere. It wasn't a thin, like, animal. Not only did it
Mm-hmm.
have these big paws, it was just big all around,
Right.
just really strong, you know? I think it's like a hairy bulldog. It looked like a wolf. It had that kind of a stance about it when it stood. It had this huge chest, and when it haunched up onto, like, partially onto its back legs, I'm thinking this thing is like massive. But it
Right.
wasn't it but it didn't walk out on its back 2 legs. Like, I mean, it
Right.
darted out and it just gone.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I don't know, it was very humbling, very, very humbling. So, going back to to that question, like, if there was a Bigfoot around, and I'm sure being up in the northern woods of Canada, very easily I could have been watched. I mean, it's not like I haven't smelt pungent things before. I've just always assumed it was a bear.
Right. Right.
I would have had no reason to think anything else without witnessing it,
Right.
you
Hmm.
know? Yeah. So, I don't
Yeah.
know.
That's
How do you think
yeah.
I'd
That's.
fare up with a dog man?
I think you're dealing with a spiritual wolf,
Yeah,
flesh and blood, but spiritual, ancestral. I call it.
right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's
It it would not surprise me. I remember, my mother's grandmother was, full, Iroquois. I mean, as soon as you mentioned that, the long black hair, it just warms my heart because she did too. And I see pictures of her and I'm just like, and she was just a firecracker. you know,
right.
and she would talk about, like, again,
Hmm.
like, even wolves coming
Hmm.
close, to the house, because they would be out close into the woods. Had a big farm literally in the woods. And there was just no fear. So I'm just thinking, when, I really feel, when you say ancestral, I really do feel there's just so much of that. I think it just gets into the DNA. You just know,
Right. Right.
you know. I love that.
Yeah. It's
Thanks, Larry. Yeah, I don't know. Um, but I mean, being marked, obviously it's not a bad thing if you get, like, a level of protection or trust.
exactly that's what you want. You want to when you have these encounters, uh, you want them uh,
Mhm.
to remember you, and they do it spiritually. I don't know whether it's a glow about you, the way you walk after you had an encounter,
Mhm.
the way you act after you have an encounter, but they know if you've never seen one before, in a certain area and you go to an entirely different state, to have the uncanny ability to know that you've encountered them before. So it's got to be an aura or something about you that they pick up on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's such an amazing compliment. Thank you. I love my connection to nature. And I think people who just have a healthy respect, even for everything, whether it's the trees, the flowers, everything has life, everything communicates, everything has an essence.
Right.
And I think if you have an understanding of that, you'll have some pretty incredible experiences. Like, you've honestly had some of the most amazing experiences I've ever heard, and
Right.
it's, I don't know. Like, we have dogmen around here, and we have, like, they'll call them almost like, the wolves that walk upright is what,
Right.
like, was what the locals will call them. They're taller, they're thinner, they're very lanky, and when they run, they lope. And then they just stop, stand up, and then they just walk, and I've had many of those, within not far from where one of my homes were.
I
I
call it
mean,
galloping because it reminds me of a horse,
yeah, yeah, the legs are never together, they just go like this.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, it's just so fascinating, and we do have a dogman type out this way as well, very aggressive. I've never
Yeah.
come across that one. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. So, current Bigfoot encounters. Do you ever had the current ones? Yeah. What's your what's your latest ones? I don't know. You're always out in the woods. You be having them every other day.
Well, besides getting thrown in the lake a couple times by them, I tend to have a little fun with them. People
Right.
are scared. People who have encounters get scared of them. That might be my downfall. I hope not, but
Wow.
I will give you, for instance, I went out on a gravel bar. I took my collar out. I made a couple calls, aggravating calls, and but I'm far enough out on a gravel bar. They're not going to slip up on me. And to make myself look legit, I carry a fishing pole and a bucket, a little tackle I keep in the bucket, and I'll bait up and throw it in the water and fishing, and I'll make my calls. And one particular night, I got there right at dark, set up, got everything going, working. Right at good and dark, I set my calls off. I do mouth calls, and then I do electronic calls that I have picked up in the woods myself that's recorded. And I know some of those calls are aggressive calls. They're challenging mates, meaning big males, on their territory. So I like to get out in a good open space like a gravel bar in the river. And so I went out and this one particular place. It's called Accident, Tennessee, but I went in on the Granville, Holloman Bend side and made my way out onto a gravel bar and went a long ways out. The river was low. I go to the very end of it and I set my bucket up, flip it over, take everything out of the backpack and flip it over, set on it and make my calls and stuff. And I'll hook my bait on my fishing pole and throw it out there and wait for a response. Well, this particular night, I wasn't getting any responses, and which is not unusual. You don't always get responses, but I did catch a couple catfish pretty quick. So I said, this ain't a lost trip after all. I'm gonna have some fresh fish to eat. So an hour and a half goes by, and I'm like I said, I'm enjoying myself catching catfish. There's no Bigfoot activity around, and I'd caught a couple nice channel cats, and I had hooked on to a blue cat, probably 8 or 9 pounds. Wasn't a very big cat, but it's good eating size. Well, I'm reeling him in, and I'm kicked back on my bucket because, the gravel bar shallows up a pretty good ways out where I was at on the dry part of the gravel. It's probably 20 or 30 feet before it gets above waist deep.
Mm.
So I'm casting out deep, and when I bring them up on the gravel bar, they're easy to land. Well, I'm sitting there, everything's going good. I've got my headlight lamp on, it's cut off, going basically by the moonlight of the night. Then all of a sudden, in a split second, me and the bucket get picked up and thrown in the river. Well, I turn around right quick, and when I come up and I hit my headlamp, but I double click it accidentally, it went into strobe mode. And here's a big male standing just feet from where me and the bucket was. And he just sort of looked at me like, "Don't mess with me," and walked off. But I couldn't hear him on the gravels walking, but I could hear
Wow.
myself on the gravels when I walked out there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but, he wasn't trying to hurt me. He was just letting me know, don't mess with him.
Mm-hmm. And here you are just being like, as Herschel was saying, trying to be all sneaky.
Right.
Do you find that they have a bit of a playful side to them as well? Have you encountered that with them?
Yes, mostly with the juveniles. The juveniles can be a little bit too playful. They can hit you with a stick and hurt you.
Oh.
I mean, it won't kill you, but it'll bruise you up pretty good.
Depends on the size of the stick. It could be a tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll pitch rocks about tennis size or smaller at you. Sometimes they'll hit you. They're not as good a shot as the bigger ones. The bigger ones tend to throw in front of you, over your head, or beside of you. When they throw in front of you, they'll generally let it hit the ground and roll a few feet towards you without actually hitting you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The females, I've never had a problem with doing that. And if there's a female in the bunch, she'll stop them. And she uses a tree frog call. And it's similar to a samurai call of like Ron Moorhead's got.
Right.
And it starts out as low, but then it gains, it's according to how much they want to argue with her, the volume goes up.
Wow, that's actually really interesting. It makes you wonder, like how many sounds. Like, I mean, I like I said, I've grown up in the wilderness. I heard all kinds of sounds. What was I really listening to?
Right, because they mimic so much. I make owl calls in the woods, and I get an answer back quick, and then I'll know it's one of them that knows me. And so then I'll just sit there till they come to me. They will come to me.
Yeah.
I've had good experiences like that. I've had, I had a clan, I think it was a total of 9 in this clan. And the female was extremely big. But I wanted to call her like the medicine woman or the shaman of the bunch, because she had braided hair, several braids, but in those braids she had snail shells that you would pick up out of the creek and stuff that were braided in her hair. And she had these mussel shells that you find, these freshwater mussel shells that we find in the Cumberland River, braided in her hair. And they were mostly around the side and hanging down. And the snail shells were mostly in a row around her head like a crown.
Beautiful. And
she literally runs the clan, period. The big males the 2 big males in that bunch weigh, I estimated 12 to 1,400 pounds. You know, and you're talking
Wow.
4 foot thick from the chest to the back. I mean, they're massive.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they will take their hands and pop it together and make it sound like a clapping, something clapping. And they will hold their hands. And I've been able to mimic some of them. I don't know if you can hear it on this with their hands.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, but it's louder.
Right.
And they'll put their hands together and do that.
Mm.
And it's taken me years to be
Yeah.
able to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's incredible. That's incredible. You just think of something that big mimicking something just so
Right.
benign, you know? I mean,
And then you'll get into a situation where you'll hear squirrel barks, but it's actually them.
mhm,
Uh, I got into way back in the middle of nowhere with a buddy of mine coon hunting, and it was a good ways to the farmer's house that let us in there.
mhm,
And the dogs would be barking; they'd be on the trail of a coon, and
mhm.
then my buddy he reaches over and puts his arm backwards on mine because I'm right behind him. He said, "Bruce, do you hear that?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And there's a noise up on the hill. And he would say, "Bruce, you don't hear that?" You know, because a few seconds or a minute would go by. He'd look back and say, "Bruce, you just don't hear that, do you?" And I said, "Well, I mean, sometimes I can be hard of hearing, but I'm listening to the dogs." And he's sitting there. Well, he said, "Let's just take a break right here and stand here a minute."
Mhm.
And we were standing there a minute, and the dogs got further out. And then all of a sudden, up on the hill, you get this, "Bruce, did you hear that? Bruce, did you see that?" And it's saying my name.
Wow.
And then you get that cold shivers go up the back of your neck,
Mm,
you know. And I tell him, well, we've
mm,
evidently in hairy man territory because he will repeat. Uh, so we went on around the hill a ways, and I started making hoot owl calls, and it would answer me back, but you could tell it wasn't a hoot owl. You know. So I've
yes.
had them do some crazy. I'll give you for one instance there. I'm glad I just thought of this one. I had actually forgot about it because I never write my encounters down. And
Mm,
it was during the first week in April. We were still having cold nights in the 30s for frost. And I wanted to go mushroom hunting, dry land fishing. We call it, in Tennessee, we call it dry land fishing. It's
mm,
hunting these morals.
mm,
So I know these 3 farmers, and they all know me well. Their family knows me well. And I've got permission to hunt on their properties. But I'd never hunted the property for Bigfoot. And so I let them know I'm gonna come up the next day, uh, and camp that evening and camp that night and then hunt mushrooms the next day. And I always stop by and I give them some mushrooms. Well, when I stopped by uh, the farm that I was going to camp on and told the farmer and his wife, she had an empty onion sack that she gave me. She said, "Take this onion sack, when you put them morels in there, when you're walking along, those spores will drop out and it'll pop up more mushrooms next year." I was like, "Okay," because I had a mesh bag for mushrooms anyway, but I took hers, you
mhm,
know, and I'd always split my mushrooms with them because they
mhm.
liked eating them too.
Yeah.
So I went up there that evening, and I got through talking to them and stuff. It was getting on up in the evening, and it was in my pickup truck, and I had drove to the back side of the properties. There's 3 owners there. They own a total of, I think, 1,800 acres between all 3 farms.
Wow.
And I drove to the south side of the hill on the very back, and I carried me a concrete rake, and I went down right under the hill from my truck. I couldn't see my truck, but I was just right under the hill on the south side. And there's a little level spot, so I raked all the leaves back out away. And then I took that concrete rake and I worked the ground up soft, so when I picked my tent up, I wouldn't feel every root and rock and acorn nut, what was laying in there asleep, all these things sticking in your side. So I worked the ground up real soft. Then I wanted to make me a fire pit. So I made me a 5-foot circle fire pit. So as I was going to get the rocks and bringing them back, I had found some dry land fish, some mushrooms. I found probably in just 30, 45 minutes, 3/4 of a pound. So, I'm going to have a great day tomorrow. When I get up from the tent, I'm going to have a fantastic day. Really, really nice mushrooms, nice white mushrooms, we call them. They come up, they're a golden looking color. And so I rake back around for my fire pit and make sure that in between the fire pit and the tent and around the tent, I rake back a 10 to 15-foot area. That way nothing catches a fire if a spark jumps out, and plus the ground's soft where I got my tent laying, so I ain't laying on the hard ground. And it's about 1:10 at night. I had a transistor radio with me, and about 1:10 at night, I heard a couple whoops. Didn't pay a lot of attention to it. I figured that's what it was, but wasn't positive. Just heard them off in the distance. So I had my transistor radio on. It's just a little radio that I had in my backpack. Well, I had set it on in the tent and had cut it on while I was building this fire pit before it got dark, and I had brought 1/4 of a rick of locust firewood with me, and my truck was just over the little hump. 50 yards from me. I couldn't see it from where I was camping, but it was just right there. And I built a fire after I got everything raked back, and I raked it back about 10 to 15 feet all the way around my fire pit too. And then everything between my fire pit and my tent, I made sure was raked back. And I had everything raked back in an overall circle of about 20 feet all the way around. So I wanted to hear what the weather forecast was, because I knew it was going to be chilly that night. And the dry land fish was up good, because I found about 3/4 of a pound just getting the rock to make the fire pit. So I knew I was going to have an excellent day. I was excited, couldn't hardly go to sleep. So I cut my radio on and just to see what the temperature was going to be that night. Because when I left the house, a couple hours away from the house, the temperature there was going to be about 32. And so I cut my radio on somewhere around 1 or 1:05 in the morning. And I kept it cut down light. It was a little transistor, wasn't much to it. And it said at about 1:10, between 1 and 1:10, it come on and said, for that region, that upper Cumberland region, it's going to get down to 29 and 30, which we all know if it frosts on the mushrooms, it can ruin them, kill the tops of them, So about 1:10, after that little program went off, I started hearing whoops again, but this time they were just right outside my tent.
Oh.
So I go out and I'm looking around with a flashlight, nothing. But I've got enough of this wood, this busted up firewood, so I just go ahead and pile me a big bunch on it and get a really good fire going. And I get back in the tent and I keep the radio down low because I'm trying to listen too. And then I hear a footprint, one step outside my tent. Well, my tent has got a canvas and a screen on it. So I unzipped my screen and reached and zipped the canvas door, pushed it back, and left the screen zipped back to where I could sit back in the middle and see outside. And behind me is a window. When I zipped that canvas down, it folded down with the screen. And so I'm sitting there. There's no windows or anything on the side of the tent. So I'm sitting there, excited, can't go to sleep, ready to go, waiting for daylight. I'm ready to hit them mushrooms. And I see this black shadow. And it's walking around my tent. But the problem is, when it walks around my tent, it takes 15 to 18 minutes to make a complete circle. So it's stalking, slow, and it's massive. So it gets around to the front of my tent's facing the far, massive shadow then comes right across my tent. I'm sitting in the middle where I can see out the screen part of the tent, and it's a big hairy man. And he's carefully stepping. Keep in mind, I had raked all those leaves back and worked that ground up for fire purposes and for me to sleep comfortably. Well, this went on for 2 o'clock in the morning. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, the radio station went to a commentary. And the person talking on the commentary, the Bigfoot reacted to it by, he slowly walked off. Now, it took him a total of 40 minutes to circle my tent twice, slow, just like make a step and just stand there a few minutes, make a step till he went all the way around it. Well, I didn't have a gun. My long rifle was in my truck in my toolbox. So here I am. I haven't even got a good sheath hunting knife on me. I got a pocket knife. That's what I cut the stem of the mushroom with. So now I've got the mushroom bag that I found earlier that evening while I was gathering my fire pit rocks. I've got it in the tent, and I've got food in there with me and stuff. There's no bears around. Hadn't seen any bears. Ain't been bears there again in another 80 or 100 years. So I stay up. I can eventually hear the whooping going on off in the distance. No big deal. I cut the radio completely off. Laid back and tried to go to sleep. Couldn't go to sleep. Excited to get started. Again, I should have been more cautious than I was. So at break daylight, I was like, I'm gonna unzip the tent, get out, and I'm gonna go to my truck. And I need another. I've got a machete in there, and I've got a long gun in my toolbox.
Right.
So I get my long gun out, unlock my toolbox, get my long gun out, I load it. Then I get my machete and I hang it on my belt off my side. And so I walk back down to the tent and strapped to my mushroom bag that I had brought. It was like a laundry net bag onto me because I'm going to have a big day. I'm going to find me several pounds of mushrooms. Well, when I start to take off from the tent, here's all these massive footprints circling my tent where I had raked all those leaves back and loosened that ground up.
Right.
And I'm like, this might not be a good idea. So I go around to the right side of the hill within sight of my tent, but my back's to it. And I'm finding these mushrooms. And I get another couple pounds of mushrooms. And I happen to turn around and go back towards my tent. Well, I just went around a little corner there off a little point, my tent was tore all to pieces. It was shredded.
Wow. Holy
So I'm
smokes.
going, whoa, wait a minute. So my gun's there, because now I got my machete on me. I'm not too worried about it. My gun's in the tent. It's a long gun. It's a shotgun. And I get to the tent, and my camp's destroyed. I mean, it's literally destroyed. My tent's ripped all to pieces. I had my favorite backpack is ripped. It was just like you took a knife and just ripped it. I mean, it was just tore all to pieces. And so I decided then it's time for me to leave. So I'm getting the pieces of my tent poles, putting them back together and stuff. And I go through my stuff, and my beanie weenies, potted meat, my bread, my crackers, and my drinks. Nothing's missing.
Which is strange because they would eat it.
Right. So I taking the tent down. Of course, it was already took down. I was just taking it apart and getting my poles out of it. And when I was rolling it up, I noticed the bag of mushrooms I had in the tent's gone. That's the only thing they took is that 3/4 pound bag of mushrooms I got from the evening before. And that's what they took. So that was my sign to tell me you don't need to be in there mushroom hunting.
Wow. Wow.
But they never touched any of my food.
Yeah, right.
I had Slim Jims. I had a 3-pound sausage log, smoked sausage log to cut up to eat on my crackers, my drinks, my water. The only thing that was tore up was my tent, my backpack, and I had one of those blue camping coffee pots that you boil. That's a percolator.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
It was mashed flat, but everything was there. It was still there except for the bag of mushrooms and that onion bag that the farmer's wife gave me.
Wayne says you were foraging in their territory, so
Exactly.
they took their food, left your food.
Yeah.
And took away your accommodations and anything you would need to be comfortable aside from the food. So you basically just left and cut your losses.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
it was, when the mushrooms were the only thing missing, that pretty much told me.
Yes.
They didn't want me there taking their food.
Like, is there a way of I don't know, asking permission, doing a trade, doing an offering to be able to do that? Do you think does it come to that? Do you think that they would let you if there was some kind of here, I'll leave you something much like you did with the fish?
Right. And if I would have hung the mushrooms outside the tent, up on a branch, and the birds or nothing got to them, I'm sure they wouldn't have bothered my tent and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Like they circled me that night for a good 40 minutes. And I think that's what it was the mushrooms.
Foraging in their space. Yeah, that would definitely do it. I have to say, it's been a great conversation. It always is. So I don't know. What do you have coming up next? I mean, are you going back out, not for mushrooms, but just hanging out?
Well, right now I'm watching a dumpster behind the community center.
Right.
I've got several coming to them. What I mean by several is some nights I'll have 2, some nights I'll have 6.
Wow.
And it's probably a good 25 minutes to a town that actually opened in a little community there, but they close at dark. They roll the sidewalks up at dark. Probably not over 50 or 75 people live in the community. But about a mile or so outside the community is the old schoolhouse that they turned into a community center. And by it, the county put a dump in there, meaning dumpsters, and a chain link fence around it. and they have operating hours, so they close at 6 or 7 o'clock of the evening, and they're only open like 5 days out of the week. So I pull up behind the community center and stay in the car and watch the dumpsters, and then I have interactions there. Sometimes I can get out of the car, and they'll chirp at me, pop at me. You know, they'll make a popping noise, or I had one 3 or 4 nights ago. Use a clicker sound, and
yeah, that's crazy.
I've not run into any aggressive, loud ones there, meaning screaming ones at me.
Right.
It's just been but I've not approached them or gone over into that, climbed that high chain link fence to go in there with them, which I don't think would be a good idea when they're foraging their food.
They could probably scale that fence a lot faster than you could, I would think.
Yeah,
you know,
and they'll probably take me with me and eat me.
Yeah, right. Great.
Yeah.
Wayne says, he goes, I wonder if you brought a few bags of mushrooms and took them to that spot, left them out for them. Could it be a form of peace offering for next time?
Yeah, but I would need to take the mushrooms from that spot.
Right. And share it.
Right. If I went in there that day and took, let's say, got 2 or 3 or 400 mushrooms and left a bag full for them hanging in a tree, that everything would be cool. You know, they would be satisfied.
It would have been okay.
Yeah.
Well, my gosh, I have to say, I enjoyed our conversation. I always learn a lot when you're on, and now I'm going to be having to keep my ears open and such. And Wayne says we have a parrot that makes clicking sounds. This is true. This is true. So yeah, it gets a little bit crazy around here, but definitely not as exciting as you. To everybody who has been listening around the world and those who have been watching and everybody in chat, thank you all so much for tuning in and commenting. We really appreciate that. Big thank you to Folgers Coffee, Steve McGinnis, United Public Radio Network. Next week, of course, you know that Daryl and Ron, for the summer, we're going to be doing replays because, you know, as I'm sure Bruce can tell you, everybody's got events to do, places to go, people to see. So we're doing replays, and this coming Monday, we're going to replay the local Bigfoot encounters of the LBL with Daniel and Barbara Joyner. And if you didn't catch it the first time, you definitely want to catch it this time. You know, what do you do when you have a property that butts up against LBL? I'd be like, move personally. That'd be me, you know, and I'm pretty fearless, but I'm not stupid. Anyway, they have a property that's right up there. They've had incredible experiences. They've had pretty terrifying experiences. You learn about boundaries. You learn how to coexist. So a lot of happiness, but a little bit of tragedy with that as well. So definitely catch it if you haven't the first time around. Tuesday on Beyond the Outer Realm, we welcome the return of Nicholas Pearson, who's going to be talking about his book Crystal Basics. So building a metaphysical toolkit and gaining an understanding of crystals, gems. So this segment's really going to benefit people who not only want to collect it, but who want to know the benefits, healing, protection, all kinds of stuff. So just definitely pop in and learn all about it. Wednesday night, Jonathan Augusto returns, and we're going to be navigating through the realm of shadow people. So loaded with information that goes back to ancient times and addresses questions such as, who are they? What do they want? Better yet, how do we get rid of them? So that'd be mine, you know, because they're hostile. And Thursday night, Morgan Damon returns talking about her book, The Wild Hunt. So we get into legends and look at modern day similarities, but starts back with the Norsemen. So that's where we're going to start going to. So thank you all. Bruce, as always, thank you for joining me, and have a wonderful weekend to everyone. And we will see you all next week. Good night.
Appreciate it, and thank you.
Thank you.